Winden had always felt haunted, but now there was something different in the way the sky looked above its forests. Thick, metallic, as if the clouds were holding their breath. A stillness hovered above the town, the kind that came before a storm, but this one felt like it had been building for centuries. Jonas opened his eyes slowly, feeling damp moss beneath his fingertips, confused by the texture, the scent of pine, the chill in the wind. He sat up abruptly, his heart racing. He was in the forest, but he didn't know when. For the first time in a long while, he felt no scars on his body. No physical reminders of what he had endured. His clothes were clean, newer. Something about him was wrong, or new, or misplaced. He pushed himself up, taking a breath that felt too light. Memories flickered in his mind like broken film reels. Visions of worlds ending, of Martha reaching for him, of a blinding white light swallowing everything. He tried to grasp any consistent memory but found nothing that felt like an anchor. Panic rose in his chest. Had it all ended? Was this the afterlife? A dream? Or just another beginning? Branches rustled behind him, and he spun toward the sound. Martha emerged between the trees, stepping into the muted light as if pulled by the same invisible force. Her expression mirrored his, bewilderment softened by the faintest relief. She approached slowly, cautious not to scare away the fragile peace between them. "Jonas," she whispered, as if afraid the forest might reject the word. He swallowed. "We're back," he said, though his voice carried more doubt than certainty. "Or forward," she answered, scanning the surroundings. "Or somewhere. But it feels like home. Not mine, not yours. Something in between." The wind shifted, carrying with it a faint electrical buzz. Jonas felt the hair on his arms rise. The air was unstable. The world felt unstable. It was almost as if the ground beneath them wasn't fully committed to being real. They walked out of the forest, and Winden appeared familiar yet tinged with subtle distortions. Houses that should have been freshly painted looked aged. Streets curved slightly differently. The church steeple was taller than Jonas remembered. A dog barked in the distance, then barked again, the same bark, the same pitch, the same exact rhythm, like a time loop glitching. Jonas and Martha exchanged uneasy looks. Whatever world this was, it was not functioning properly. As they walked, Jonas felt an odd pressure in his head, a sense that he was being watched. Not by a person, but by the world itself, as if Winden were conscious and observing them. He shook off the thought. Martha brushed her fingers against his, not fully holding his hand, but enough for him to feel supported. Their connection was strong enough to exist even here, wherever here was. Meanwhile, deep in the cluttered safety of her old study, Claudia Tiedemann discovered something inexplicable. On her desk lay a journal, weathered at the edges, ink smudged by time. It looked like her own, but she had no memory of writing it. Flipping through its pages, she found detailed accounts of events that had never occurred. Timelines she didn't recognize, choices she never made, predictions of future moments that felt too precise to be imagined. She read sentences that referenced a fourth world, one that merged remnants of the previous ones. A world built not by human hands but by time itself struggling to repair the damage of endless loops. Her breath caught. If a fourth world existed, it meant the cycle wasn't broken, it had evolved. She rushed to her chalkboard, drawing diagrams, timelines, loops, intersections, erasing and rewriting. Nothing added up. Everything overlapped. It was as if time had folded in on itself and created a hybrid world from the pieces that survived the collapse. She needed to find Jonas, Martha, anyone whose presence had previously affected the balance. Time was no longer linear nor cyclical, it was wounded, and the wound was spreading. Charlotte Doppler felt it too. As she walked through her home, she felt déjà vu so strong it made her dizzy. Her daughters, Franziska and Elisabeth, complained of recurring dreams. Dreams of a glowing doorway under the old power plant, humming softly like a living thing. They described its energy, its colors, its pulse. Charlotte tried to reassure them, but deep down, she felt the same pull, the same unease. When she finally went to the power plant, she heard the hum instantly, a deep, resonant vibration, too steady to be mechanical. She followed it, descending into the darkness, the air growing warmer and heavier until she saw it. The doorway. It wasn't like the God particle she once knew. It was different, more organized, as if it had made peace with its own chaos. Its surface flickered with images, alternative versions of her life, her children, her choices. She reached out, touching its edge, and the visions intensified until she staggered back, trembling. This was no accident. The world was trying to speak. Back in the forest-adjacent caves, Jonas and Martha entered cautiously. The familiar scent of earth and minerals brought a strange comfort. They had spent lifetimes in these caves, and yet now something felt disturbingly altered. Symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly, rearranging themselves like creatures waking from sleep. Jonas approached one carefully, reaching out to touch it, but Martha grabbed his wrist. "Wait," she whispered. "Something's wrong." Before Jonas could answer, the symbol pulsed. Both felt a powerful jolt of energy, and suddenly their minds were flooded with memories not their own, versions of each other across different worlds. Lives that weren't theirs but felt almost real. Martha gasped, stumbling back. Jonas pressed his hands to his temples. Their link was stronger, deeper, as if their consciousnesses were bleeding into each other across timelines. They ventured deeper until they discovered a chamber that was definitely new, or maybe newly revealed. A floating sphere hovered in the center, rotating slowly like a miniature planet. Its surface rippled with memories and moments, both real and imagined. Jonas approached, mesmerized, but the sphere pulsed violently, knocking him unconscious. Martha caught him as he fell, tears flooding her eyes as she saw flashes of his life. His loneliness, his determination, his fear. Claudia and Noah, separately drawn by the energy flux tearing through Winden, found each other outside the power plant. Noah, strangely calmer than ever, spoke of seeing a future where all worlds collapse into a silent, infinite darkness. He said he wanted to prevent it. Claudia didn't trust him. She never had. But his voice carried a sincerity she hadn't expected. They joined forces, reluctantly, to unravel the mystery of this fourth world, which Noah believed was a desperate attempt by the universe to rebuild itself. The situation grew even more complicated when Lina appeared. A teenage girl with no history, no family, no past. She claimed Jonas had saved her in another timeline. One Jonas didn't remember. Her presence made Jonas deeply uncomfortable. She felt like a misplaced puzzle piece from a puzzle he didn't know he was solving. Martha treated her gently, sensing the trauma behind Lina's silence. But Jonas feared she represented something worse, a sign that the world was beginning to absorb fragments of erased timelines. As days passed, time anomalies escalated. Clocks spun randomly. Radios stuttered old conversations. The power plant lights flickered in patterns. Bartosz noticed his father's prototype time machine powering itself, emitting soft blue sparks despite being disconnected from everything. He gathered Franziska and Kilian, his voice shaking as he explained the signs. They agreed that something catastrophic was brewing, something bigger than any of them had ever faced. Jonas and Martha reunited with the others when Claudia called an urgent meeting in the bunker. Everyone listened intently as she revealed the existence of Origin 2, a self-created anomaly formed from the aftermath of the destroyed timelines. It was meant to stabilize reality but had become unstable due to contradictions within the merged worlds. If it wasn't fixed, the entire structure of time would collapse.